Hello everyone, and welcome to session 1 of these workshops, 2 workshops on getting a federal position. My name's Elizabeth Glass. I'm the program director for the Ceffins Career Development Center, and I apologize I couldn't be there in person today, but I'm very excited about delivering this content electronically, and I would love to hear your feedback after this session. Since this session is about getting a federal job, we're going to focus our introduction on usajobs.gov. Go ahead and navigate there on your computer if you haven't done so yet. If you already have a profile on USA Jobs, go ahead and log in. If you don't, go ahead and start the process of signing up. While you all do that, I'm going to just go ahead and make sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to USA Jobs. We're using this website because the vast majority of U.S. federal agencies use it to post opportunities, positions that they want to hire for. So in a way, it's good because it's a one-stop shop when it comes to finding positions and also applying for them. Simplifies things a lot in some ways. The downside of USA Jobs, or applying for positions from USA Jobs, is that it's such a large system that one can remain relatively professionally anonymous while trying to apply for positions. And that doesn't help anyone, actually. It doesn't help the candidate, and it also doesn't help the people who are trying to hire a good candidate. So that is why I want to call to your attention first and foremost that even though we're talking about how to apply for federal positions today on this one-stop shop website, I want to emphasize the fact that your technique, your approach for searching for positions and applying for positions should include usajobs.gov. It will most certainly have to include that, but essentially what you want to do as far as your approach goes is to build some professional connections so that when you go to apply on USA Jobs, you have a real live human being on the other side of this, what I call the kind of like the USA Jobs abyss. So someone looking for you on the other side of this abyss, someone who's going to pull your application. Maybe you've already chatted with them, maybe you've already met them, maybe you've already talked about how you might be a good fit for the position. And if you can set it up so that that is the case, it will help your chances tremendously in getting a federal position. Now, you might be wondering, how am I supposed to do that if, I'm applying on USA Jobs, I don't know anybody in the federal government, I don't have any ways to set it up so that someone's looking for me on the other side of the abyss? Well, there are a couple of different things that I will recommend. One is actually to have a look at some hiring outreaches. The U.S. Forest Service is a great example of this, where they send out an announcement ahead of time that gives information about all the positions that they are going to be hiring for coming up, in the next few months, few months to 6 months, something like that. Oftentimes, this outreach is accompanied by a spreadsheet that shows the details of each position, where they're located, and a whole column just for the hiring manager, the name of the person who's in charge of hiring for that position. I have spoken with a number of federal agency folks from different agencies, and they all say, whether you get that information in a spreadsheet or not, to go ahead and give the person a call who's responsible for that position. Now, if you don't have access to that spreadsheet, you could potentially find this information on their website. Each agency and, like ranger district or department within the agency has its own website. And a lot of times, positions that they are going to post on USA Jobs are listed there as well, along with the hiring managers. Another way to do it is just call up the district and ask who the person is that will be hiring for, say, temporary positions in range management, in their particular district. And more often than not, like most often, they will give you the name of the person and you'll have someone to call. Now that's a bit different than in private industry. There are certain organizations in private industry that will shield their people from just kind of general inquiries. But USA Jobs is enough of a hassle for the government agencies as well. Don't worry, it's not only a headache for you, it's a headache for them too. And so especially certain agencies like the Forest Service are trying to find ways to cut through that anonymity and that abyss. And one of the ways that they're using is to give out the names of the hiring managers. So by all means, contact someone, ask them some questions. Make sure you sound intelligent, make sure you've done a little bit of homework, make sure you have some ideas of what you might be interested in, and ask them some basic questions that will help you understand the position better. Everything from that to even what it's like to live in that area if you need to be relocating for the summer. That will plant the seed of a professional relationship that will lead to someone being able to look for you on the other side of USA Jobs when you've applied for a position. Okay, having said all that, and I hope that right there, what I just said, is probably the most important part of this entire workshop, because we're going to talk the rest of this time, we're going to talk about how to search, how to set up your profile and all of that. And all of that's important, and it's going to be a mandatory thing that you do most likely in the process of getting a position with the federal government. But having a real live human being looking for your application in terms is one of the most powerful things you can do in terms of actually like getting an offer for an interview. So I really want to emphasize that. Okay. Now, let's take a look at USA Jobs. Hopefully you're in a profile already. You can see my home page here on my particular, well, this is the profile here, but in my particular version of USA Jobs, this is what it's looking like. And if you haven't been able to finish the profile section yet, you'll be able to work that information, and it's all pretty straightforward information. So I won't go into too much detail there. But if I go back to the home page, seems like things are a little slow here. So I go back to the home page, and you can see there are a couple different places, like here and here, where you can search for opportunities. And I'm going to just type in an example here in case you have not done this before. And I'm sure there's a mix of people in the room. The last session that I gave, there were probably about a third of the people in the room who had used USA Jobs before. So for those of you in this session who are familiar with the basics of USA Jobs, I thank you for your patience today, and I hope that you can even maybe help the person sitting next to you or someone in the room who hasn't done it before and maybe needs a little bit of help. All right, so as I mentioned before, I have a special place in my heart for wildlife positions in Alaska because of my previous experience. So just as an example here, I'm going to type wildlife in and use Alaska as an example, and I'm going to search. This brings up all the positions that are currently posted on USA Jobs that have those keywords in it. You'll notice that the keywords I typed into the search are even highlighted, which is kind of convenient there. And another thing that I wanted to mention about USA Jobs is that you're only going to come up with search results of positions that are currently active on USA Jobs. That means positions that are currently accepting applications. Now, you might know of a position that is going to be posted, and you might want to go check that out and look it up, but you're not going to be able to look that up on USA Jobs. You're only going to be able to view that information when it is active on USA Jobs. And another word of warning, the positions are sometimes only posted for 3 days or 5 days or 7 days, very rarely a couple of weeks. So it's usually a pretty narrow window that you have to actually apply for these positions. You'll see over here on the left, you can filter what you've searched for by various categories, and I'm going to click on pay grade because it's an important part potentially to you determining which positions initially you might be eligible for. So pay grade is oftentimes in the federal government across most agencies called series and grade, and it's what is kind of shorthand referred to as GS level. Now, the GS level is what's going to give you an indication of what you might be able to apply for. So here's an example. If you're looking to apply for a temporary position over the summer, you're most likely going to be looking for a GS 04 or maybe even a GS 03. If 03 might be a little bit low, but GS 04 is a pretty typical series and grade for a seasonal position and for an fairly entry-level position as well. You'll see, yeah, biological science technician, you'll see that as a GS 04 fairly frequently. So therefore, if you know that off the bat, you can be scanning these search results for something that is closer to what you might be eligible for. And you know, if you have previous experience, you may be looking for GS5 positions. GS5 positions, when I worked for the Forest Service in Alaska, was more of like the crew supervisor, so that's someone who maybe had worked for that team for a couple of years and then was bumped up to an 05. Now, it doesn't just indicate your pay level, it also indicates, and really is more tied to your actual duties. I have pulled up here an explanation. Here is a web page that describes the general schedule, which is what GS stands for. And if you wanted to look at what you might be eligible for, here's a really basic description. But you can also look at, if you clicked on this link here, pay and the general schedule, it will also give a detailed description of what your duties might be. So this is how the federal government classifies positions, basically. And it's a good way to get an indication of what you might want to search for. Another search option that I wanted to point out is one that I particularly like because I'm a very visual and spatial person. If you click on map search, it will actually show you a map and by geolocation how many positions are available. And my computer's operating rather slowly today, so I don't know how in-depth detail I'm going to be able to go, but you can get a picture here. If you can see, these numbers are kind of recalculating as they settle out. This is showing where in the world federal positions are available. And so if you have a specific geographic location that you're interested in, you might want to use this map feature and check it out. Or if you're just curious, and I think one of the things that's so cool is that, you know, there are positions, not just in the continental United States, there are positions all over the world. And so that could be kind of fun to explore. Let's see if I can zoom in some more. That's kind of neat. If we look in the Flagstaff area here, let's see if we can see what this position is all about. Whoops. Here you go. So then you scroll down and you can see, based on location, we have a GS5 and a GS10. And then, of course, when you click on the actual position, it'll give you a detailed description of the position. I'm going to go back to my GS4 here in Alaska and use that as an example. But first, I'd like you to pause the video for about 10 minutes, and I'd like you to have a chance to search, do a couple searches, find a few positions that you might be eligible for and that you're interested in, and you might even save a search that you've done. That gives you the opportunity to, if you save a search, you can set it up so USA Jobs will email you and let you know when another position has come available with those criteria. But for now, if you could pause the video for about 10 minutes, I want you to get a chance to find a few positions that you're interested in. We'll see you in a few.